Thank you so much, Kate. So, hi everyone. My name is Rachel Williams, and I am the coordinator of transfer and transition programs at the University of North Georgia. And I also have the privilege of working with NISTS on a pretty regular basis. And one of my main roles is helping with our TSAs, our transfer student ambassadors. So, part of what we're doing today is just giving you a chance to get the student perspective. Part of this conference is seeing great research, great opportunities that other people have done, but one big thing that we want y'all to take away is actually some student voices. So I do have my TSAs here with me today. Before they introduce themselves, I just want to give y'all a little bit of a rundown of how I kind of see this flowing. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and start placing those in the chat for our transfer student ambassadors. I'll pick those out and read them out so everyone can hear them, and then just call on one of our TSAs who wants to speak on that topic. So I wanted to be pretty casual. We all just want to get to hear their perspectives. So just, get to know us and we'll get to know you, and it'll be a fun time. So without further ado, TSAs, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Sturm, and my major was neuroscience. I just recently graduated in December, so I'm really excited to now be working in a neuroscience lab at the institution where I graduated. And so I'm especially thankful because that allows me to kind of continue some of this work with the other transfer students that I've been doing. So in my past institutions, I actually started right after high school by going to a community college. I did not have a great experience there, so quickly transferred to a four-year school, which was very expensive, and I didn't quite have a handle on those finances. So I ended up taking some time off and then eventually coming back to community college, giving it another try, finding a completely different experience, and then transferring to Colorado State University, which is where I just graduated from. My goal is to continue in school into graduate school. I actually have an interview at CSU next week, so wish me luck. And thanks guys. My hope is also to use neuroscience research as a kind of gateway to continue supporting community college students and transfer students, and to somehow integrate that both like in a mentorship role, but also if I can use my research to focus on some of those same groups that are transfer students and that you all are trying to help as well. So why I really wanted to be a transfer student ambassador is because I felt a lot of stigma around the community college education. And it was so internalized in my own ideas that when I went to go apply for graduate school, I wanted to hide all of that transfer experience. And it was only through some really amazing advocates and a number of mentors and people that really showed me that we don't need to hide from this. In fact, it's really important to tell these stories so that other people can see there's no reason to have a stigma around community college education and a non-traditional path through school.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Kiara Scott. I'm a general studies major at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And some of my career goals, they seem to include like finishing grad school. I was recently accepted to the Ross School of Business Masters of Management program. So I'm super excited to start that this June. And just to tell you a little bit about like my past and current institution, because like I said, I'm a senior now. I started my college journey right after high school, and I went to a for-profit school called Everest Institute, which basically, and I worked so hard. I caught like 6 buses a day between going to work and school, and it was just like a total waste, and it left me in a lot of debt, and it was very discouraging. But then I turned around and I wanted to try again. So after, taking a few years off because my mother had passed away, I enrolled at Macomb Community College. And it was just kind of like, it was very frustrating because I pretty much felt alone throughout my whole registration process. I took a lot of classes that didn't count. And I also, just took I just basically went in circles until I went and enrolled at Henry Ford, and that's when like just everything changed for me. And I just found so much support by so many like staff and so many like just so many people that I never knew, you know, that could make the difference in your journey, you know, having those connections with your professors and joining student clubs. So now I transferred to the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, where I'm so excited to be graduating. And the reason why I applied to be a TSA ambassador is because I understand the difference that having a support system made, and I just want to be a voice for people who may not know much about the journey, but still is willing to go through it, because sometimes that can make all the difference in your journey, just having someone there to support you and that understands your struggles and can speak to them. So I'm excited to be here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Morgan. My major is political science. My career goal is to write or be a part of the writing of transformational policy, education policy specifically. So, you know, kids can get a better education, you know, or an equitable education that allows them to dream and you know, be, you know, functional members of society. That's something that's very important to me. My past institutions, so I currently go to Oglethorpe University. I started my collegiate journey at The Ohio State University, and then I transferred to University of Cincinnati, then I also transferred to Oglethorpe University. It's my last university, my final university. Well, I guess not. I just got accepted to Rackham Graduate School at the University of Michigan. So their School of Education. I'm very excited. Thank you, guys. I'm very, very excited. That definitely was a dream come true for me, and I'm very excited. The reason I applied, the first reason I applied, yeah, go blue. Yeah. But no, the first reason I applied really was because I wanted the hard work and dedication of everybody around me to be seen. You know, when I first got to the university, they supported me. They offered me, they allowed me, I guess, a chance to apply for the transfer student ambassador position that we had internally in the school. They gave me opportunity to go to the NISTS conference last year, and we did some incredible work. We put together a transfer student week last year as well, and everybody just supported me and really gave me the opportunity to do all of these amazing things that, you know, I've said that I kind of want to do, you know, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them. So I wanted their hard work to be noticed, right, and seen, and I wanted my university to be, you know, on this platform, and just to show that, like, you know, we care about our students. They've cared about me, you know, I care about all our students and specifically our transfer students as well. So that was the first reason I applied. And the second reason I applied is because I really wanted to just, you know, be as much help as I could be, any way that I could possibly help. I wanted to be able to do that. So, you know, I said in my application, I'm very, very proud and thankful to be here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dipti Karnani, and I major in biomedical sciences. So as for my career goal, I'm hoping to work within the healthcare field eventually. As for being a physician or working in public health, I'm currently on the fence between both because I ended up minoring in public health and I really love it. So I know for one thing, I really want to work in like reducing health disparities. And I transferred from a community college back in my home country in Belize. So I'm an international student as well as a transfer student. And I wasn't really enjoying my experience over there because I felt quite limited and I knew I was ready to go abroad and study. So I transferred to the University of Tampa. And over there, I realized that it wasn't really a welcoming campus culture. And I felt like resources there weren't really available for someone like me who really wanted to take advantage of research and work within like a really good science department, and I felt like I was being quite limited there. So I ended up transferring again to the University of South Florida, and I'm about to graduate this semester, so I'm really excited. And as for why I wanted to apply as a transfer student ambassador, so my experience as a transfer student in the beginning was quite discouraging, especially the fact that I transferred twice. And so often I felt limited in my past institutions. In the stigma of being a transfer student, I feel like a lot of people expect transfer students to just, focus on their academics and get out of school and work right after. And I feel like not a lot of people are there to support you and provide you the resources you need to both be a really passionate student at your university and a really successful student. And me being at the University of South Florida, I was able to find a really great support system through my on-campus job as an orientation leader and through my peers. And as well as my fellow international students. And there were incredible amount of resources that really transformed me as an individual. And I really wanted to share my experience in the sense of being involved on campus and sharing all of those resources and telling other higher ed institutions that transfer students do need the support, but they're often overlooked just because they're not really the first to come up and ask for help and stuff like that. And I feel like that's really important because they can be as passionate and as successful as any other student on campus. So that's why I wanted to apply. Thank you.
So as y'all can see, we have the best of the best for you to get to know today and kind of ask your questions to these amazing students. So if you want to go ahead and place those in the chat, I know you probably have them, and then we'll get them answered for you. All right, so while y'all are taking a second to place those in the chat, I do have one question just to get us started. So what's one positive aspect of your transfer journey that you would want others to try and implement at their institution?
I'd love to go ahead and quickly start with this one. And I'd love to also just take a moment to say thank you to everyone here today for your time and energy. I am just blown away by everything that I've been hearing in the other sessions, and it sounds like you are really putting student experience first and listening and acting on that. And like, it has made such an impact on my motivation to continue this work. And so I just want to say thank you and how much we really sincerely appreciate the work that everyone does. So a positive aspect for me, and I noticed someone is from a STEM university, and I think this really especially applies to STEM, but can kind of be taken for any major too, is that between my community college and four-year school, I was accepted to a program that put us in a summer research experience at the four-year school. So before I actually had a class at CSU, I was on the campus, I was meeting the faculty, I was getting research experience, and I was getting paid to do all of that. And this made such a huge difference because not only did it show me that, you know, I was about to be accepted into this school as a full student who's ready to work in the school, it also just helped me shift that identity, which was really, really difficult. You know, I had worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years as a manager. And so shifting my identity to a student and a researcher, getting that extra experience really, really made a difference in my willingness to buy into the programs, as well as, you know, it just gave me those connections before I was even in those huge lecture halls where I would get overwhelmed. So it really helped me kind of navigate that whole process too.
Thanks, Emily. Anybody else? Kiara, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go, because I was like kind of thinking the same thing that Emily was, you know, referring to. Like, I think it made all the difference, because kind of similar to her situation before I transferred to U of M Ann Arbor, I actually got a chance to, you know, be a part of a fellowship in which I, you know, got to, you know, do research and get paid to do it. And I think sometimes we miss the mark with that, because when you're normally a non-traditional student, you don't have the same circumstances as the average college student, but that doesn't mean that you can't add to and contribute to society in a very impactful way. And so I know that made the difference for me to just be able to meet staff and work with them before I got to the university. So when I did go, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like I didn't have no one to refer to whenever I had questions, because prior to transferring, I was working with student organizations and faculty and staff. So I can agree with that. So.
Is it okay if I like kind of answer the first question and kind of transition into some of the others?
Go for it.
Like kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like all wrapped into one. I think that the best thing that you can do is to, and what my favorite experience was, is having a community fostered around me and just students in general, right? So if you can build a community and foster community at your university, you allow students to feel like more than just a number or a cog in a machine or somebody that is taking classes. Because I mean, yeah, I get it. You can take classes anywhere. But and also there's a question about online. How do you do that online? I think that every school should have a transfer student ambassador, and I think that if your school, if it's possible, I know a lot of larger schools, so I've been a part of larger schools as well, have multiple schools. If you can have a transfer student representative that is a student, I think that that is amazing, because like right now at Oglethorpe, we're working on our transfer student page. It's like, once we get a transfer student, you can go to the transfer student page and you can automatically link to one, resources, but also to be able to use me as a resource. I have office hours and things of that nature. So if you ever do have a question, a lot of people don't know where to go with their questions, right? If I transfer to a school, I didn't go to orientation, I didn't do this, I don't know where this office is or who to speak to or where to get this information. And it becomes discouraging if I go somewhere and they're like, oh, this is the wrong place for that. Go across campus, or, oh, and a lot of students just don't want to. A lot of students are going to be like, I'm going to just go to class and, may the best thing happen. But for us, I know, like, I've tried intently to, every time I see a transfer student, I know a lot of them from having events and things of that nature. Hey, how are you doing? Right? I can like foster a genuine connection with them. How's everything going? Oh, you're taking that professor. This is what this professor's like. This is what they expect. Oh, did you take that test? Yeah, that one was tough. Just things like that to let you know that you're not alone, and that, not only does the university care, that people at the university care specifically about you and your journey. And I think that that's something that you can't put value on.
Anybody else want to transition to talking more about our question about engaging online transfers?
I was the one who brought up the question about that.
Yeah.
I work for Eastern Oregon University. And one of the things that I've always cherished about being able to be on on-campus student was the camaraderie and the friends you make, some of them forever. That doesn't happen very much online. In fact, hardly at all. So I was trying to think of ways, we started chat rooms and things, and that seems to be starting that. But is there some way to do that without, getting too personal? I mean, it's kind of how do you ask people about that? Just do a survey?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things that made a big difference for me at CSU was that we had this physical space to go to for adult learners, and they had free printing and free coffee, and it was my home. And it was one of the things that really helped me continue at CSU when times got tough, because I had that place to go. So two things that we're doing in the online to kind of make it feel like home again. One is that as many as we can, transfer students are assigned kind of a peer mentor, and they reach out to them over text, over email, and actually phone calls too. And so I think like reaching out in those multiple different ways really allowed the students to connect in the way that's most comfortable to them. Because it's such a funny thing, right? Like some students, including myself, are just weird about phone calls. We just don't like talking on the phone. And, and I tend not to answer those calls, even if I know who it is and I know that they have good intentions. If they text me, I'm much more likely to engage in that conversation and then make that connection. And I think one awesome thing about that was that before the students started classes, right after registration, the peer mentor would reach out to them over text and phone call, and then offer to take them to campus, offer to show them the financial aid office, and of course, socially distanced, one at a time. And it did take a little extra time and energy, but it was totally worth it, because now I'm still getting every once in a while, oh, hey, like, weird question, but how do I get to the whatever, So then once you have that connection, you have a person to go to, like Michael was saying, I think that really helps it feel like home. And then the other thing that we're doing is these like really broad drop-in office hours where peer mentors or financial aid advisors or people from different departments will just kind of hang out. I don't know if many people are familiar with Discord, this kind of like server that allows you to just hang out and kind of chat with people really casually. We have actually found a lot of success with that. So if you're not familiar with Discord, maybe ask your students if that's something that they're using already, because it turns out that a lot of groups of people had already kind of been familiar with that. And then kind of coming to them in that way was really useful.
So like I've noticed on campus that, there is a big difference in the way in which we interact, especially over Zoom, because after being in class all day, it's kind of hard to get people to, want to hang out over Zoom. We used to host workshops with the group. I'm a student work I'm a part of called Optimize, and we have like up to 400 attendees sometimes. And, like those numbers dramatically turned around after, the pandemic. But some of the things that we've been doing, trying to counter that is we'll have like virtual coffee hours in the morning, or like we'll have like a Zoom call, but it'd be it's like low stress. Like it's not like, we're talking at you the entire time. It's like, oh, we're hanging out or we're playing games and we're just, just getting to know each other, or we'll eat dinner or have lunch together. And, but it has been hard on everyone. But I think the virtual coffee hour and like, things like peer mentoring, that does help,
So I kind of wanted to add on to what Emily was talking about earlier. And so in the past, before COVID, within my university, orientation leaders, of course, we know they're kind of like the first point of contact for students, because they're the first faces you see when you go onto campus for your orientation program and stuff like that most of the time. So in my experience, when I worked as a transfer student, what we would do, unlike, freshman orientation programs, is that we'd reach out and contact each and every single transfer student we were assigned in our teams over the phone, just to make sure they're all prepared and ready to go before they arrive on campus. Is there anything they need? Are there documents that they need to submit, whether it be for residency, immunization, etc.? And so in that sense, they kind of were able to familiarize themselves with us, and they would come and meet us on campus. So there's a sense of comfort when they're coming on campus. At least they recognize one face. And there's an unspoken expectation with orientation leaders, in my experience, was that we would make ourselves available even after the transfer orientation program. We'd be like, hey, this is my number, this is my email. If you have any question at all, please reach out. I would always make sure that I'd be like, okay, so I know this is unfamiliar territory and stuff like that. So I'll be like your guide and like your first friend if you have any advice. And sometimes we would do check-ins later throughout the semester, whether it be before midterm week, or like how to get involved on campus and stuff like that. At least they have a student they can approach rather than someone from faculty, because sometimes it can be a little intimidating. And so with like everything shifting online, of course, now other freshman orientation programs, they also do those check-ins over phone call and stuff like that to be prepared. And so now it's just even more prevalent going on online, because not a lot of people know what's going on campus. So often they'll get emails or text messages like, hey, this is what's going on campus this week. I don't know if you received the newsletter, but this is a great opportunity to get involved, etc. So I feel like that's a really big help. and it's less intimidating and less pressure on the transfer students themselves. I feel like they're able to ask the questions in a more free manner when it's another student you're talking to.
Nice. Oh, Michael, you want to add
Oh
more?
yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, I think that one big thing when it comes to the online education, just in person online, being more than just an email or being more than just contact information on a website. And I know that that's hard to do, but at least at my university, like, I have a video, right? I have like this transfer student video where you can get to know who I am. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like a guy, you know what I mean? Like everybody else is just a student, I'm just a student. I'm from a place, I've been to a school, I'm at this school now. And I think people feel more comfortable reaching out when they can see that, okay, he has a similar journey to me, or he's gone through the things I've gone through. He's going to the same classes I'm going to. And also, like, it works because when they see me, if they see me on campus, they'll know who I am, and they'll be like, yo, like, oh, I'm a transfer student, organically just ask me a question, organically, oh, can't I having a problem with this? Where do I go? What do I do? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like, awesome. And there's been a million times where I'm just like, oh yeah, just, I have a card, just, send me an email. Like, let's have a Zoom conversation or send me an email, just text me, whatever it is, I can help you. It's no big deal.
One of the things that I was just remembered too is my online student average age probably is between 30 and 40 with families, jobs. So maybe they really don't have time nor a desire to get into too much back and forth with other people. They've got enough on their plate. So that's one of the things I know I'm running into.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I know, Kiara, you do too. We're both all about that. Like, at some point, there's only so much that we can engage. And even just today, I was getting all these great, like, webinar here, like, let me help you with this, professional development, that. And at some point, you just kind of shut it all out. And I think that's why, like, getting one personal connection, like a peer mentor that you can personally text, really makes a huge difference, because then you can ignore all that other stuff. If there's something good, your peer mentor will be like, hey, are you coming to this on Friday? It's the financial aid workshop that will help you pay for school. But they'll leave out all that extra fluff that maybe they don't have time for.
I just know for me, it can be a bit overwhelming, especially because I'm 32 and I have a 13-year-old. And, prior to, this year, I was working full time. So it was a lot. But I think like that one connection or that one student club and just, staying involved in that, it's better to, just do it that way. But I think sometimes we miss how important it is to be a part of student clubs and to network, because, college isn't all about just going to class. And I think we need to do a better job of putting the emphasis on that and being intentional about forming relationships, because it can make a big difference in the outcome of your whole educational experience and what you do after college.
Nice. Great job, y'all. So I'm going to move on to our next question just so we can try and get through as many of these as possible. But this next one is, how did you find out about the college where you're about to graduate from or the one you're currently at? Was it, just Google, or did you have an advisor tell you about it? Kind of how did you find that next step in your journey?
So it's funny because I thought that I never even imagined that I would be able to go to U of M. Like, I got an email about the transfer bridges program and I ran to the office like 15 minutes later. Like, the counselors didn't even know what I was talking about. I was like, what is this program? I want to know about it. And, because originally I was going to go to Wayne State, but that's because, like I said, I just never thought like the whole transfer thing was possible to like a school like U of M. And I feel like we have to change that, because that's not cool. But at the end of the day, I'm super excited because I found out about a fellowship that following summer, and I just been doing stuff ever since. And so I'm so grateful. I'm so glad I checked my email.
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Michael and I work for Tulsa Community College. I'm an academic advisor. I started off when I started in college. It was when I was 18. And I thought I was going to be going to school to be a therapist. I was really set on getting like a master's, maybe a PhD in psychology. And my dad talked to me about Oklahoma State University and how they have a program for healthy human performance. And it sounded so much better. And so this is my dad. He gave me this brochure from Oklahoma State University about their health human performance program, and it sounded really interesting. And when I went to OSU, it's a really nice campus, and I like how the rooms were. For my exercise physiology class, they had treadmills in the classroom, and it was really fun.
Awesome. All right, so let me scroll up here and find our next question. Okay, so when y'all were applying to transfer, what were any of the challenges or frustrating parts of the application?
I think that's a really good question, because if you would have asked me after my first transfer experience that question, I would have just said it was fine. There were no problems, but obviously something wasn't fine because I didn't end up graduating from that school. So I think in the end, what really was a question I didn't know that I had was beyond just transferring and getting your classes registered, there's so much more that is available to help you reach your bigger goals. Even if it's goals like getting paid while you go to school, getting that work experience so that when you graduate, you have a competitive resume. Like, I had no idea that those were important things. And so I think I would say that part of that process that was frustrating was that no one reached out to me to kind of help me along that way. I didn't have many friends that were going to college. My friends and family haven't, I don't know a lot of people who have gone through that process. So I think what I really needed the first time was someone to reach out to me and say, hey, there's questions you don't know you have. And so then this time, when I successfully transferred and graduated, there were actually two counselors, one at the community college and one at CSU, who worked very closely in reaching out. And then all those little things that can add up, like not knowing what forms to fill out or not knowing how to appeal your credits. I know sometimes, like, when you get your credits transferred, they don't automatically count for the things that you want them to, but you can appeal that process. I would have never known that, so I think I couldn't even have said that it was frustrating the first time because I thought I just did it all fine. And so what was really exciting the second time was that I had someone to show me those questions I didn't know I have and really make them relevant to my goals beyond just transferring to the school. I think someone in an earlier session, the coffee and research session earlier, was talking about how, like, transferring and graduating, that's not really what we're trying to do. We're trying to change our lives, get out of the restaurant industry, support our families. And those were the kind of goals that these schools really spoke to, that really helped me out with that process.
Awesome. So I think you kind of transitioned us really well into some of our next questions. So let me scroll down to make sure I'm reading them correctly. All right. Was there someone at your current institution that advocated for you during your transfer process? And I guess, how did that feel? I think you kind of already touched on that, Emily. But anybody else got someone that advocated for them?
I would say my academic advisor, Cecil Rose, and he still advocates for me to this day. I love Cecil Rose. But yeah, so like when I got there, he initially looked at my resume and he was like, oh, okay, like you would be a good candidate to apply for the transfer student ambassador. And he did that. He didn't just just meet with me or whatever it may have been. He looked at my resume. He said, oh, okay, like, you could apply for this. I applied, I was able to get the position, and then I worked with him, throughout my time at the at the university, but I think that what he does is he does a good job at getting to know the students, seeing the students, calling the students in when something doesn't necessarily look like it's working the best, or just, simply going, okay, what are your goals? These are your goals. This will be a good club to go to. Oh, is this your goal? You should go to this office. You need to go there, right? It's just understanding, one, the framework of the university you're at, and two, how to lead people and shepherd people to where they want to be. I think Emily hit the nail on the head when she goes, I've never wanted to, like, my goal is not to get a bachelor's degree, right? My goal is to like live out my dreams. You know what I mean? And like, I want somebody to instruct me to my dreams and not my bachelor's degree, because, I could do that myself.
Wait, I think I see. Go ahead, Keirra.
Oh no, I was gonna say, my mentor, Dr. Calvin Harville, he has just been like a guiding light for me throughout this entire process of my college experience. I didn't know him until I got to Henry Ford, but like it just goes to show like the difference, just having that one faculty or staff member, or can make. He has exposed me to so many opportunities. I've gotten to host my own talk sessions at Michigan State University. Like, I've just gotten so much exposure to so many different opportunities, just being connected to him and joining the Black Males and Queens focus group, because originally the community college that I did go to had a very small percentage of African American students on campus. I forgot the exact number, but it's very little. So it was nice to have that space where I felt like I could be myself, and that people understood some of my struggles, and especially because my mother didn't graduate high school, so I didn't have help with anything. And so to just be able to have someone to go to ask, can you look over my resume, or can you help me with my CV? I didn't even know what a CV was until I met him, so it just makes all the difference. And
so in the beginning, like fresh out of high school, I guess. So I've always been one who knew where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to get out of my experiences. And so I was very, very excited to go to college the first time. And as an international student, I was really excited to go to a new country and experience everything. And I was like, you know what? I've got it all handled. I can do this on my own. It is what it is. And I go to the US for the first time for college. And I really place a lot of trust in my academic advisor to guide me and to show me about opportunities that I might not know about within my major. And I really wanted to get involved in research. And I was discouraged by my experience with my academic advisor at my previous institution, only because, like I said, there's a kind of misconception with transfer students about them not wanting to get involved within the campus culture, and that they're only looking to get their bachelor's degree and move on. And I knew that that's not what I wanted to have. I really wanted an experience where I could take advantage of all the opportunities, meet other international students like me, create a community, basically a network. I just didn't know all of that yet, or how to articulate it into words. And so I was led with I was told that, oh, you are a transfer student, so you've been through this before, you know how it is, and I'm pretty sure you are capable enough of figuring it out. And I was like, well, no, this is my first institution in the US, first of all. And as a transfer student, I'm already discouraged because I didn't have the experience I wanted before. Like, can you please help me? And at the end of the day, I just knew I had to get out of there to a more accepting campus culture. And what I realized is I was looking for a really diverse campus culture with people who had gone through the same things I had, or who could somewhat relate. And I really wanted to go to an institution that had a lot of opportunity for me to grow. And when I got to the University of South Florida, when I applied for the orientation leader position, my supervisor, Rachael Griffin, she was actually the one who nominated me for this. She had told me about all these questions I didn't know I had, like how Emily was talking about. And I was here like, oh my God, I didn't even know I could do this as a transfer student. I didn't know that I could be as passionate as anyone else here and do well in my academics and succeed. And so I think all of these experiences have really transformed me into a better individual. And now at least I can advocate for myself and what I'm looking for, maybe in the future in grad school or within like the workforce and stuff like that. So I'm really thankful that she was able to help me build a voice for myself. And she was not there to dismiss my narrative as a transfer student. And so I just wanted to share that within the TSA position as well. Thanks, Michael.
I think you just mic dropped on that one, the like not getting rid of your voice as a transfer student. I think that needs to be a quote just from the entire conference. Like that's your takeaway right there. So I want to try and jump one more question in here because I think it's a really interesting and I want to hear y'all's perspectives on it as well. Just, when you're transferring into an institution, do you want your identity, and I think we just kind of discussed this a little bit, do you want your identity as a transfer to maintain throughout your entire time, or do you want to more assimilate into that campus culture while also being a transfer student? And then if that's the case, kind of what organizations did you have that either helped you be that proud transfer student or helped you be the proud new student at your new campus?
I think that's a very good question. Um, I think, I think that the first thing that all universities can do, and we all can do, right, is like I want my identity to be noticed. You know what I mean in the beginning, right? Like you go to a lot of big schools, and you don't, and it's like you just show up. You know what I mean? I've been to a lot of schools where it's like you show up and great, go to class. You know what I mean? So just to be acknowledged from the beginning, right, will be great. But I think that I think you kind of transition to, I wouldn't say a traditional student or regular student. I think that what happens, at least what's happened with me, is I work in a transfer student space, but I'm a very comfortable student, right? I'm very comfortable. I love the university. I know everything about my university. There's nothing you can tell me about my university, right? And I aim to give that information out to everyone or anybody that would need it. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like I work within the transfer student space, and I help transfer students, and I help all students. Every student will come to my office hours or my coffee with a transfer student or whatever it is. Everybody's welcome, but I do reach out to transfer students, you know what I mean, because it is my job. But I hope everybody, whatever, you got to get the job done by any means. So that's just kind of what we do.
So I think for me, it's definitely I hold on to my identity as a transfer student, because I think I will always hold my associate's degree to my heart the closest, because it took me 6 years to complete it. I didn't just get it, right away. And so I feel like, overcoming those struggles have made me who I am as a student. So I probably wear that title as a transfer student. And like the group and the student orgs that I joined on campus, which is Optimized, we work with a lot of transfer students, and through the Transfer to Bridges to Humanities program, we also work closely with the college that I transferred from, which is Henry Ford. So I think it's kind of a little bit of both, because I'm definitely proud to be a Wolverine. Like I love U of M, but I think I just after everything I've been through, I have a special place in my heart for my original community. I mean, well, for Henry Ford. So
I just want to jump in on this one too really quick. Sorry, Dipti, you can go next. I just think this is such an important question, because navigating identities, especially if you've gone through a couple different schools, can be so tricky. And especially like with all those other identities that you're kind of integrating, and then also like moving beyond to the identities of your past careers and things. I think too, specifically with transfer students, the idea of what your transfer student identity is needs to be shaped by those other transfer students that are being successful and the advocates around you. I think in my first experience, when I thought of myself as a transfer student, I thought of myself as a failure, as a person that dropped out of the first school or who couldn't continue. And I wouldn't want to tell anyone that I was a transfer student. I would never bring it up in conversation. But that was because, you know, a lot of the other transfer students that I did see around me, especially at that community college that had a very high dropout rate, you know, you start in a class with 30 students, and then by the end, there's maybe 10 students, and maybe 2 of them still fail out. And so to me, that's what I was identifying with as a transfer student. And so it wasn't until that program that introduced me to these transfer students that are now going on to graduate school. They brought back transfer students that now got their PhD, which is what I wanted to do. So seeing someone that took that identity and changed my idea of what that identity was made such a huge difference. And that's the only thing that allows me to now go on and do that for others. Is that I think it is really important to kind of shout from the rooftops, like, transfer students, because it's so easy to get lost in that bustle of other students that maybe aren't reaching their goals, or you know, it's easy to amplify the negative in your memory, especially. So I think when you stop out of school for a couple years, that identity gets even more amplified in your memory and can be even harder to work against. So I just really respect that challenge and everyone that's working to changing that. And even when they, you know, sometimes we do meet students that are kind of resistant and they still don't really want to talk about being a transfer student, but just to keep trying and keep reaching out to them.
Dipti, go ahead if you still want to speak, and then I'll close everybody out.
Thank you. So I feel like I'm resonating a lot with Emily's experience, only because in the past, I've also been the same way in terms of my transfer identity. I never wanted to share the fact that I did transfer, more so transferring twice to a different institution. And it wasn't until my experiences with getting involved on campus, I opened myself to multiple perspectives, and also I'm opening myself to everyone's thoughts on how they define a transfer student. And so after seeing a lot of my fellow peers who are transfer students are in like incredible leadership roles, and they're advocating for the resources that they received at the institution about how they grew professionally and personally, it was like, you know, I want that. I want to be able to be in a leadership position where I can advocate about my story and how I transform for the better. And so definitely seeing other people who started off the same way that I did and made themselves into a better, more successful individual, that really made me want to share my experience and say, you know what, because I was a transfer student, I was able to give myself this, this, and this. And I really, at orientation, I feel like everyone knows that orientation leaders are very energetic and peppy. And I remember applying for the job, and I absolutely was not like that. I was like, why is everyone celebrating so early in the morning, every hour of the day? I'm just seeing Rachael being like, yes. And I just remembered not understanding why there was anything to celebrate, you know, and I felt like my peers who were also getting situated at USF with me, they also felt the same way. But at the end of the day, we were all so excited because there were so many things that we had left to do at our institution. And I feel like involvement in all has just played a really big role in making me not only like proud to talk about my story, but also say that as both an international and transfer student, I came out on top, and I did like the most that I was able to do at my institution. Like I got all the experiences that I was looking for, and I didn't know I could unlock. And I feel like I did unlock my potential. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And thank all of our TSAs for sharing amazing perspectives. I'm so proud of all of you. But I do want to keep cognizant of everyone's time. So we are going to have to close out. But just thank y'all again so much. Thank you for joining. TSAs, if you do feel comfortable, you can share your contact information in the chat, since I know we didn't get all of our questions answered, but don't feel like you have to. I'll place mine in the chat as well. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, you can do that as well. But yeah, thank you all so much for attending. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.